how easy is it for you then to develop your own style? So because you are very when I watch you play, when I hear you, you are very much your own artist. You have your own style and your own way of expressing. But somewhere, where did you get to the confidence of being yourself?
Yeah, in a way, I think it all stems from maybe starting to question everything. Mm-hmm. Because of course, I mean, it's very natural that we would start, let's say, playing violin, learning from a particular method or from a particular tradition, or at least having, let's say, particular sounds in the ear already, let's say, growing up. And that's great, because anyway, we need to start from somewhere. But at the same time, I think it's equally valuable at a certain point to start to have the courage to unlearn, and to start to question everything. I think actually, and that happens, I guess, more, let's say, when you encounter differing viewpoints, or when you encounter, let's say, viewpoints that are different from the one that you currently have. And I think that's always helpful. That's always beneficial, in the sense that causes you to then reevaluate your own viewpoints. Even something as specific as, like, even the way you produce sound, or the sound that you produce, or specific ideas about the music itself, or a particular piece, let's say, that you're able to let's say, not to settle on something, but to continually reevaluate and to continually question something, to the point where, like, okay, that process, you continually do it. I think that over time you do develop, let's say, the confidence or the conviction to follow your own ideas, or to actually make musical decisions for yourself. I think without that spirit of constantly re-examining and questioning for yourself, that nobody does that for you, but you do it yourself. I think that really does lead in that particular direction. And for me, I think once I developed the confidence to do that, then it was very easy to start to actually imagine sound exactly how I would want to produce it. Or, imagine, let's say, or even like the road between the gut feeling that you have when you first respond to a piece, when you first discover it, when you first read the score, or when you first listen to something, the route between that particular feeling that you have and the sound that you then have in your mind, in the way that you want to produce it, how you want to play the piece, becomes in a way more straightforward. Because at that point, it's sort of like, the more questioning you do, the more the real you comes out. Because now you're now directly involved in the interpretation, let's say, of a piece of music. So I think that I think that the general idea is not to be complacent. That's like, whether in music making or whether in daily life, it's part of that, I guess. It's never to sit on your laurels, so to say, never to sort of like to say, oh, okay, I'm comfortable doing this, I'm comfortable with this. But in a spirit of also, like, in continual development, that it is part of that, in the sense that you always look for something that, let's say, will continue to exercise or to test what you know. So in that sense, it's I think not to be complacent, and to be constantly searching, and to be constantly questioning. I feel like that's how, at least for me, how it came about. But in a sense, it's also like, you don't go into it with the let's say, the desire to be individual for the sake of being individual. You just basically, at a certain point, it's like, you do things how you think things should be done, as simply as that. And I think that when you get to that state, backed up, let's say, by a lot of experimentation, a lot of thinking, a lot of rethinking, all that stuff, then I think that then it really comes from a place of authenticity. I find. Because I think if you go into it just wanting to sound different from anyone else, I think that's immediately something that's a superficial aim.
Yeah.
You know, that let's say you haven't, let's say, gone through the full circle of rethinking, of reinventing, of questioning, and all that stuff, which is really necessary, I think, to find oneself truly. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Would you say you're a little bit of a rebel?
I would say not all the time, but
okay.
I would say I'm someone who has always been comfortable, let's say, being on a different path, or on being, let's say, on an individual path, regardless of whoever else is on that path, whether there's no one, whether there's some people, whether there's everyone. Like, that was something that I was rather comfortable with. So even, let's say, if I was going at something alone, or if I was doing something, as long as true to myself, or something that I really believed in, then I didn't mind, let's say, being alone doing something. So in that sense, I mean, I felt like I was always free to do what I wanted to do, in the sense that I wasn't urged. I didn't feel the urge to follow the trend, or to let's say, to be part of a group, let's say. Yeah.
That's wonderful that you had the confidence to do that. But did you, when you were younger, did you play in an orchestra as well, or did you always play solo?
Yeah, so in a way, I mean, when I was young, I did a few, kind of a few different facets, or a few different roles. In a way, I would go to also orchestra camp when I was younger, and chamber music and all of that. I think, like, in the end, it's like when you play with people, whether it's orchestra or chamber music, that's actually a real way to learn about life and about human relations. It's sort of like human relations condensed into a specific circumstance. But through, let's say, chamber music especially, I think just you learn to communicate with people, and you learn to make compromise, which is what you do.